Welcome to Picks with the Professor, the show where a real statistics professor and his friends give you sports betting tips. I am your host, Professor Sides, and I've built a set of mathematical models named Sideline that predict various sports outcomes. You'll hear more about the baseball model during the course of this episode set to cover four Major League Baseball games scheduled to be played on Thursday, May 18th, 2023. In case you're new here, check out the webpage on the banner. It's www.pickswiththeprofessor.com/new for some explanations and community rules. Remember, if you're interested in projections and picks for every single game, the A-plus play of the day, and that Discord chat, sign up on Dub Club. That link is in the show description. Membership costs under $1 a day. Those A-plus plays of the day will be worth your membership fee. You'll get it right back in no time. But even if you're not there, still thrilled that you're watching with us here. Remember that sports are unpredictable, so the discussion on this show projects a typical game. It does not try to forecast it to a T, as it'd be a foolish and impossible goal. Take a long-term view around here. We don't get distracted when the Reds decide, let's take a 5-0 lead, and then baseball, who plays baseball? And then who knows what happens after that, because honestly, you'd probably be better off if you stopped watching. That stuff balances out in the long run, but it's hard to foresee before it happens. In other words, please understand that good and bad variance will occur. So as much as I'd like to say it'll be profitable each and every day, that is an impossible reality for any gambler. Cousin Jared, I'm gonna blindside you here with a question on something that we haven't talked about. Why is it, in your opinion, that we can laugh and joke about the weird things that happen in baseball when they are bad beats and not wild wins? Why do you think that is?
I don't know. Sample size. Baseball is by far the wackiest sport. Like, I do agree that I even think about like the college football show. And it's it's like we just get angry. It's like this is so dumb with baseball. It's just like, baseball is gonna baseball kind of thing. So I think it's just one of the attributes or quirks or whatever you want to call it that makes baseball interesting is that you're going to see like 1,000 different things seemingly every week. And at some point you lose so many of the games that it's just like, you know what, I'm not even angry.
You ate the whole wheel of cheese. I'm not even mad. I'm impressed, right? It, of course, and today, not just the Reds, that's at least a little bit more explainable because when you play in Coors Field, the ball's flying out there. And I this is just a gambler's regret, right? Where I'm sitting there and the projected total for that game overnight jumped about a full run. Because the wind shifted from like across to out, I think. And so the model said like 12.5-ish. And I was sitting there looking at 11.5 and I was like, ooh, like, should I jump on that 11.5? Like the ball's gonna be flying out of there. And then just like didn't. And then now there's 16 runs and counting. And so I think it's a little bit of negativity bias too. Cause the other one, of course, to talk about today is the Pirates, who haven't scored more than 4 runs in since 1812. And Eduardo Rodriguez has been pitching fantastic. And then the first 2 runs, questionably Rodriguez's fault. I mean, that ball was hit really well to center field, but the center fielder drops the ball, hits off end of his glove. But then after that, they just kept scoring. You're going to see those weird things. I just think it's funny that the bad beats we remember more than it's almost like the ones that we never should have won that we get lucky on. We're so just like, I don't want to say exhausted, but just kind of that relieved that we don't remember it as much as the bad beats were we kind of take with us, whether it's anger or just laughing it off and being like, wow, this is a dumb sport. But it is just a good reminder. I always about that long-term look at it. The A-grade play still profitable, A-plus plays of the day, still even doing better than those. So that's again where those are just the blind plays, just like we did in college basketball season. We got 1 A-grade play to talk about today and 3 B-grade plays that we're actually going to zig and zag and talk about some interesting different picks we have for these that we like, that we think are worth your investment here on a short slate for Thursday. But before we get to that, some reminders. Please hit that like button for YouTube. Also, if you aren't yet, please consider subscribing or following. It's free, and if you turn on notifications, you won't miss any of the college basketball, MLB, or college football content that this channel provides. So we have scaled it out. A-grade money down plays return 4 units as the risk plus win equals 4. B grades return 3. C grades return 2. Total bets are flat bet to win or risk 1 unit depending on if it's plus odds or not. So it makes it like a C plus pick. Totals have a little more variance, so I just want a little bit less on them proportionally than the side plays, which are a little bit stronger and more consistent. But scaling with the picks as always, take what you like and leave the rest. Start us off 12:35 p.m. Eastern. Angels at the Orioles. Orioles minus 125 is a B grade pick for us. Sideline says it should be Orioles minus 128, that they win 56% of the time. And the Battle of Tylers right-hander Tyler Wells for the Orioles, left-hander Tyler Anderson for the Angels, and neither one of these guys is that good. They're projected pretty similarly according to the model. And the reason I say not that good, I know that Tyler Wells has a 2.68 ERA, but the advanced metrics say it should be in the mid fours. He is going to come back to earth soon enough. He projects to be in the mid low fours as well. He's done great, but as I'm always saying, ERA is a great indicator of what did happen, maybe not the best predictor of what will happen. He's still a little better than Tyler Anderson, though, who's got that low 5 ERA, but the advanced metrics this year on him say it should be the upper 5, so he's actually been worse. Should be a few runs in this one. Of course, the problem with that is the total is 9. Model only projects 8.5, but with these two pitchers, I'm not really comfortable playing the under, especially knowing the Angels' offense is still pretty solid. Orioles, of course, have the edge at the bullpen, and that's really where I think this game is won because I'm not expecting a ton from either starter. I think you have to, again, I know Wells has pitched well this season, but it's been a lot of luck and mirage. I think it's going to be, you're happy to get 5 to 6 innings from either one of these guys. And you're going to need 3 or 4 innings from the bullpen. That's where the Orioles shine. I like them to win at home. I think 125 is a little bit short. Otherwise, we're talking mid to low 60s, wind blowing across. Cousin Jared, you like the Orioles as well. What is your pitch?
I do. I feel like there's a team or two every year where the statistics don't add up to how good the team, don't accurately measure how good the team actually is. And I feel like one of those teams is the Orioles this year. They have been playing really, really well. But we've also seen, you mentioned Tyler Wells probably going to have some regression to the mean, which in this instance would be some negative regression for him. But we have seen pitchers that have just had like months of where their advanced metrics have just been much worse than, like you said, their ERA or some of those traditional measures. So I'm hoping that we can get another game out of him. I think that, we just can't accurately measure with statistics how good the Orioles quite are. I think there's still a little bit of value there at home. I like him a lot. And to your point, Tyler Anderson has been nothing to write home about so far this year.
Yeah, and it's a great point you make there. The Orioles were kind of this way last year, really undervalued as well. Kind of the same thing this year. We backed them a lot. They've been pretty profitable. And there is something to be said for the fact that when you have a good catcher, especially one who can hit, just that added bonus. But of course, the Orioles, after they called up Adley Rutschman, have been fantastic. And whatever boost he's giving his pitchers, there might be a little bit of that in there that he's kind of helping them out, making them perform a little bit better than their numbers otherwise would indicate. Team plays good defense, whatever it may be. He's outperformed those peripherals. It's not something that I expect to happen the rest of the year, but like you said, it's not crazy to think that maybe we can get another, a start or two like that out of them. I feel like my default really is just back the Orioles and fade the Angels, just because that's where the value typically is, right? And I think that's kind of similar here. The Angels offense, I do want to point out, at one point had kind of been more towards the higher ranges of the model's projection system, and it's like coming back down to earth a little bit. Some weaker performances, of course, a couple of extra injuries. Now Rendon, who's been terrible at third base defensively, but losing his bat hurts them, and all that newfound depth that they've got, if they start getting that depth tested, they're going to become back to that league average offense. So not quite as impressed as I was with their offense maybe a couple of weeks ago. And the Orioles been good to us, so just kind of keep riding that train. 1:10 p.m. Eastern, Nationals, the Marlins. Marlins minus 154 is an A-grade play. Model says it should be Marlins minus 173, that they win 63% of the time. And this just ekes into that A-grade category. Minus 155 or better gets us that A-grade. Yuri Perez in his second start versus Trevor Williams. Perez didn't quite make it through 5 in his first start, 3.86 ERA. The underlying metrics weren't very promising, but he's got a pretty good pedigree. Obviously a top prospect. Model pegs him around league average. That's about where the Marlins bullpen is. Their offense has fallen below that, of course, but the Nationals bullpen's been terrible. We saw it again last night here on Tuesday, where the Marlins got that walk-off win because the Nats bullpen just is not very good. Trevor Williams will get the start for them. 4.23 ERA, underlying metrics say it should be about a half run higher below average pitcher. So the Marlins will have an edge on the hill throughout the game. And even though their offense is dinged up, I still think it's a little better than this Nats offense. I'm just not sold on it. So Marlins an A-grade play here at minus 154. I'm not playing a total in this game, at least as of yet, but if I were and I'm debating it, over 8 would be a decent look. Model projects 9.1 runs. Marlins Park has not been quite, or whatever it's called, Lone Depot, I guess.
Lone Depot, yeah.
With like a lowercase L and whatever. Whatever that place is being called nowadays. Not quite as it should be pitcher friendly as it used to be. It's kind of playing more neutral-ish. I honestly think part of that has to do with the humidor helping that one out, because when the balls are sitting out in that really humid Miami air, the balls get a little moist, little weightier, a little spongier. And now that they're in the humidor, they're not getting moist. So the air's still humid, which actually it really doesn't affect the flight of the ball. Technically, from a true scientific standpoint, more humid air, the ball flies a little bit more, but it's like 3 feet. The bigger difference is if the ball's in that humidity, it's getting that, soaking up that moisture. And the humidor's really actually made Marlins Park play much more neutral. So I would be looking over. I'm debating it here, but if nothing else, I'm for sure on the Marlins at minus 154. Because, Jared, the Marlins have been a scary team to back. You are an A-grade believer. How do you stomach this play given how scary the Marlins have been?
Well, first of all, I don't think that, over 8 is a bad play either. And so, if you couldn't stomach it, I think that is an appropriate substitution in this scenario. But I just look at Trevor Williams, 112 grade. I mean, he has been well below average. And like you said, his advanced statistics even worse than how he has actually performed. And the Nats bullpen not being good either. So it's just very difficult for me I see an A-grade play on the Marlins. And then I think that basically no matter who's on the mound for the Marlins, there's going to be an advantage over whoever is on the mound for the Nationals through almost all 9 innings of this game. And so I think the Marlins are a good play simply from that fact that I think their pitching is just a clear cut above anything that the Nationals can throw out there.
Yeah, and of course, as we always talk about, if you're liking the over and the Marlins, the other alternative play is the Marlins team total over would be maybe the play if you were a little bit concerned about their bullpen. The Marlins, of course, losing AJ Puck, their de facto closer, I guess. He wasn't closing every scenario, but he was closing a lot, and that's a little bit of a ding to their bullpen. So it'd be kind of another way that you could look at this one if you wanted to. Speaking of, we're going to look at this other ways. 2:10 p.m. Eastern, Guardians at the White Sox. The model gives the White Sox minus 135, a B grade. Says that it should be White Sox minus 143, that they win 59% of the time. Logan Allen for the Guardians, Dylan Cease for the White Sox. Cease, again, he hasn't been good this year. 4.86 ERA. The advanced metrics say it should be in the low 4s. That's just a far cry from how good he's been the last couple of years. Will he figure it out? I mean, at some point, time's running out for him and this White Sox team. He's definitely got the pedigree. He's been really good. He just hasn't done great this year. Logan Allen, his 4 starts, 3.43 ERA. The underlying metrics say that should be spot on. So, I mean, Logan Allen's performed better this year for sure than Dylan Cease. Model still thinks Cease is the better pitcher based off of the historical data, the fact that rookies tend to be not quite as good in general when they come up. So the model still favors Cease. White Sox getting a little bit healthy on the back end of their bullpen could help them. Still don't have a ton of depth, but the back end of their bullpen at least squares up to be on par with the Guardians. So the model's looking at this saying, if we get 87 grade Dylan Cease, where again, 100 is average, lower is better. If we actually get a good Dylan Cease, he can go 6-7 innings. The back end of the White Sox bullpen kind of short up a little bit, they can kind of run 1 through 9 on this one inning wise and be in good shape. Offensively, the Guardians offense, still unsure about the status of Jose Ramirez being out. I assume he'll be out for Thursday during the day since he's out for Wednesday night. That seems like a quick turnaround. And without him, the Guardians offense drops to well below average. So the model's looking at the White Sox here. I don't think the White Sox are a bad play. They're a scary play, if nothing else. Total wise, the model projects 7.9, again, knowing that or assuming that Ramirez will not be there. One of these two pitchers you have to assume is going to pitch well. You can go under 8 or under 8.5, depending on shopping around. We're going to be in the low 70s, wind blowing in around 10 miles an hour. Cousin Jared, what's the way you're playing this one?
So I have said on this show before that I kind of evaluate the B and the C grades, for each individual game. I'm not just going to blindly play them. Not back in the White Sox. Can't bring myself to do it with how they have performed so far this year. But I do like the under 8.5 here. I think that you mentioned Ramirez being out. That would be a big blow to the Guardians offense. And then I think one of Logan Allen or Dylan Cease has a good game here. So I like the under 8.5. I like it less at 8. I think you got a higher likelihood to push there, and I really kind of want to win at 8 as opposed to push. So 8.5 is probably the lowest that I would play the under here. But in lieu of going with the White Sox, I would much prefer to take the under 8.5.
Yeah, or like kind of the theme of the day, the team total aspect. You could take the Guardians team total under with Ramirez out. You're putting a little bit more faith in Dylan Cease. I don't like that angle as much. I'm like you. I like the under 8.5 a little bit better because you do have to think one of these guys, if both these guys pitch well, this game's 2-1 and the under is going to be a breeze. At that point, you're just going to have to hope it's not 2-2 going to extras where some team wins 7-6 in the 14th or something stupid, right? With all the zombie runners at second base.
Yeah.
But yeah, one of these guys pitches well, and I'm thinking 6-2, right? one of these guys pitches well, someone wins 6-2, something like that, nice, easy win. It's hard to say which one. Logan Allen's been really good so far, but I mean, Dylan Cease, you can't write a pitcher off after, 9 starts or whatever it's been. That's been pretty mediocre, absolutely. But every pitcher, in the history of baseball has had 9 starts where he's looked very mediocre, right? No matter how good or bad. So if it's Cease that shows up well, then yeah, you've got just a couple ways to hit that under. And the only way you really don't, especially with the wind blowing in, is probably if just both guys collapse, which possible, but not overly likely. And again, the White Sox bullpen looking a little bit better, maybe crossing your fingers if you're a Southside fan there to help kind of get us to the end of that game without too much damage, right?
Yep, completely agree with that. Although I will say, like, of the pitchers that I have concerns about, Dylan Cease is definitely like on the watch list of like, is something going wrong?
I would agree. Yeah, it's not like he's not in my I am concerned, but he is in my like I'm keeping an eye on it. Like it's not quite what I expected. And because we were talking about early on in the season, there's a lot of guys who haven't done well, but the underlying metrics are like it's fine, no worries, right? He's definitely one of the guys that it's not. There's a handful of guys that I'm already like I am worried about this guy, but he's like on that next tier of like what's going on there, because he was so dominant, the last couple of years. But yeah, if the good news is with the under is that even if he doesn't find it, if Logan Allen does, and this White Sox offense isn't anything special either, just one pitcher has to be on, and we should be able to get, like I said, a 6-2 win or so, gets us under 8.5. And then a night game here for you, 7:45 p.m. Eastern. Dodgers at the Cardinals. Cardinals plus 126 is a B grade, according to Sideline, which is that the Dodgers should be favored in this one by a price of minus 118, that they win 54% of the time, and the Cardinals win 46% of the time. So a 46% winner at plus 126 would be a profitable play. Wainwright's going on this one. I recorded yesterday's show, and the Cardinals decided to move Wainwright back a day. The Cardinals are in the stretch of a ton of games in a ton of days, and so they gave Liberatore here Wednesday start, and then they'll get Wainwright back, and everybody else just an extra day. I think helps the pitchers when you have these stretches like this without an off day. So Wainwright will get the ball. Again, as I mentioned yesterday, hasn't done well. Only 2 starts, though. Underlying metrics, a little bit of a concern for sure, but he's got the pedigree if I'm not freaking out just yet. The bigger thing on this one's Julio Urias, a guy I've long talked about, not nearly as good as the ERA last year, not as good as the wins were previously. A good pitcher, absolutely. Still gets an 86 grade, but not quite as valuable as people think. 3.61 ERA this year is a whole lot more back to earth from last year's numbers, but the advanced metrics actually say he's pitched worse than that this year. So at some point, while he's a guy who maybe always outperforms his peripherals, this year's peripherals are so bad, outperforming him still puts him kind of, again, good, not great. And this Cardinals offense is pretty good. And so they should be able to take advantage of that. 2 good offenses in this one, 2 good sets of bullpens. It should be a decent game, especially if we get a decent start from Wainwright. Model thinks there's a chance the Cards pull it off and likes the plus 126. I'm not sure how I feel about backing Wainwright at this point, but that's one way to look at it. Another way to look at it's the over. Model projects 8.6. There are some 8.5s out there in the market. If you wanted to go over, it should be a nice warm day in St. Louis to start off around 80 degrees. Closing around 70s and the wind blowing out and across at 5 to 10 miles an hour. Kind of like the Cardinals a little bit. Kind of like the over a little bit. I kind of think both are decent. I'm having a hard time pulling the trigger on either one of those, though. Cousin Jared, what do you got for us?
Well, let me make it a lot easier for you, and let's say we go Cardinals team total over 3.5. How does that sound?
I like that. I feel like we flirted with that all episode, and so now we're just let's just do it.
Yeah. Let's do Cardinals team total over 3.5 here. I agree with you that Julio, he does well, but I just think that his name carries a lot more weight than what the results actually have. And the results have been good. They're just not great. And I think when you hear that name, you think of great results. So I also look at the weather, and it's, moderate wind out potentially across. Going to get a big boost here if that wind actually does end up being out. If it ends up being out, there could be a lot of runs, and maybe this game ends up being 7-5. The Dodgers win, but the Cardinals easily go over 3.5 runs. So let's do Cardinals team total over 3.5. I think this is the first time I've dabbled in the team total market of the year. So can't wait to watch how I lose this one to the conversation we had at the beginning. I'm pretty
sure in college football season last year, you were like 0-12 in team totals. And we kept flirting with them. We kept talking, and we kept having ones that we just loved, and everyone was like, yes, this is such a no-brainer. And then somehow it would one week it would just be like, you had an over the team, and then like a freak, there was like one of those freak windstorms or whatever came through, and it was like a 3-0 game. Or 1 week, it was like the team scored. You had an over. The team scored a ton of points in the first half, and they couldn't score. Like every which way possible you could lose.
Yes.
So I'm curious to see, like, does that continue here, or do we just can we just get a normal ho hum win, right?
And I know specifically which games we're talking about. We're talking about the Arkansas State Hurricane game. We're talking about a Coastal Carolina game where they scored like 35 points in the first half and scored 6 in the second half. Yeah, it's good times all around.
Yeah, back to loop back. We've got full circle now at the start of the episode. Another point that we were just kind of chit-chatting before we recorded here, that a good point that you'd made, which is if we're kind of liking the over, kind of thinking, these two good offenses, balls flying out. You never really know with baseball which balls they're using, but we've seen some of these games lately, ton of runs, and if we're kind of in that situation with these good offenses, a more of a home run derby-ish type game, at that point, you kind of want the plus odds. If it's just a chaotic game, the plus odds, you want either really low scoring where it's like all you got to do is score 2 runs and you might win, or you want really high scoring where it's like everyone's scoring and who knows what's going to happen. You don't want an average game, because if it's an average game, that's just normal, then the better team should win, right? And so the Cardinals, it may be playing a little bit better here as of late. Their offense getting going, pitching still questionable, but whatever it is, they're nowhere near as good as the Dodgers. I don't think anybody's arguing that. So they're going to need something, a little bit weird happening, or again, a vintage Adam Wainwright, or whatever it is to pull the win. So maybe it's just more high scoring. Like you said, I could see 7-5 either way, and neither one would surprise me. We've seen the Cardinals put up runs in bunches, but we've also, of course, know the Dodgers can too. So kind of like the over, kind of like the Cardinals at the plus 126. Our official pick here is going to be Cardinals team total over. That way, maybe we just isolate that, and all we need the Cardinals to get to is 4. And I think the last thing I want to say is, like you said, great point. Urias good. I don't want people to misconstrue that. I don't want people in the comments, oh, you think Urias is terrible. I don't. He's a good pitcher. It's just I think he's being priced and treated like he's great, and I think he's good, not great. And and that's no shame in anything. It's just I think he's a little bit overvalued. So Cardinals team total over, a little pick there. So we got a total pick, we got a team total pick, and a couple side picks. Got a little bit of everything for you here today. Otherwise, Cousin Jared, any parting words for the viewer?
I'm just, the further we go in this season, I'm just so thoroughly confused about these random Thursdays where we don't have night games. Like, we've got 2 night games tonight. Why do we have getaway days where we have no night games? Like, I understand it would be nice for the teams to have, more time to travel and whatnot. But I mean, come on. I mean, we should have a night game every night. We should have at least one day or afternoon game every day, and we should also have one night game every night. Is that too much to ask for Major League Baseball?
Apparently it is. I completely agree. I've talked about this. I think that we should, you would think you'd have more Thursday night games, kind of like this Dodgers Cardinals, where you're starting a 4-game series, and that would be a night game, because why would you play that in the day? You should have day games on Wednesday, Thursday for getaway stuff, and then night games on Wednesday, Thursday, because when you play a getaway day on Thursday, you have the night game before Wednesday, and then when you have your getaway day on Wednesday, you have a night game on Thursday. So you should have both. I don't quite know why there's so few Thursday night games. It makes a little more sense at the end of the season when they don't want to fight with football, right? I kind of get that, but at this point, there's not as much happening. There's obviously some playoffs. But anyway, the last thing I want to say, talking about playoffs again, remember the Discord chat, a great place to be, under $1 a day to join on Dub Club. We've got NHL playoff discussion, NBA playoff discussion. And what I'm finding is that, I'm back in Indianapolis here in the land of legalized sports betting. It's good when people in the Discord are talking about what they're doing for the boost that these books do, because I signed up for like 4 or 5 books, and there's so many different boosts and things happening here that like I can't even keep it straight. So the Discord's like a valuable resource just for me to keep it all straight. So people are like, hey, we've got this boost at this book, this, because I can't look through all that stuff, right? So that's like a valuable resource just to be in that chat with other gamblers, hearing other ideas, give you other angles to look at. Sometimes they bring up things there that I'm like, I hadn't even thought about. That's a great point. Helping me out in other sports that I'm not quite as model driven yet. They will come. I'll be building those models up for other sports. It just haven't happened yet. So again, a great resource there to get in that Discord chat. You can get there on Dub Club. That link is in the show description, under $1 a day. Every once in a while, Cousin Jared pops in, and we love it when he does that too, right?
Hey, and I even put something in the college football channel today, because some other podcast out there is now dropping season preview stuff. So college football is really going to be here before you know it.
Yes, and the comment that you made about that, for those who have not seen that already in the Discord chat, highly recommend listening to those. They're highly informative, some of the best information out there for college football. If you aren't already listening to that one, that information on that Discord chat there is great to have. And like I said, for me, a must listen every off season. It's hard for me to find time with baseball season, trying to figure out how to listen to all that stuff. But got to listen, start taking down the notes, and just start making sure I'm kind of like thinking through all things, because it's all about how do we all get information, hearing from different people, thinking about different things, coming up with our own stuff. stuff. I've got my models, of course, but making sure I've got good information from lots of different sources. Part of the thing about being wise, right, is knowing where to get good information from, and part of that's right. That Discord chat can give you that. So again, a lot of good reason to be over there. That's all we got then for you today. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Picks with the Professor. Don't forget to subscribe so you can show the sports betting content right on this channel, drop right into your feed. I'll be back again tomorrow with more baseball betting content. And until then, as always, best of luck. And remember, you can eat your betting money, but please don't bet your eating money.